Today I'm going to see if I can make some rainbow coloured pumpkins for outside. Now, do I know this is going to work? No, I haven't tried it before, but are we going to have a go anyway? Yes! So let's try and make some rainbow concrete pumpkins. And I almost forgot to say, so what do you do when you run out of concrete in the middle of a project where you just want to keep playing and having a go? Well, naturally you buy a giant tub of concrete that is as big as your head, and then you keep playing. We're going to use concrete for crafters, tights, string and paints. Before you get started, you really want to both protect yourself and the surface. I laid down this plastic sheet to catch any of the concrete dust. The first thing you need is your tights, and this is what the mould of the pumpkins is going to be formed in. So you want to use some tights that are fairly thick and will hold the slightly watery concrete mix inside without seeping out. You can cut the end of the tights to about 6 inches, about the size of a normal kind of medium length sock. And yes, these are a little bit furry, that is because my cat likes to sit on them, but it's fine because the concrete mix is going to be on the inside. First things first, your protective stuff, so you definitely need gloves and a mask when working with concrete. You want to find something to stretch your tights across, something like a spare tin, or in this case, this planter. The reason for doing this is so that you don't have to use your spare hand for holding the tights open while you're filling it with concrete. Next you need some pieces of string. Now this is for tying the pumpkin at the end, but if you do this now then you are less likely to get them a little bit messy with your concrete mix later on. The string that you need is to tie the top of the pumpkin and then create the ridges around the sides of the pumpkin as well. You can use as many as you like. I did several pumpkins here, so that is why I've got several pieces of string. This is the concrete mix, which I've used before on some little trinket dishes, so know that it's pretty fun and easy to work with, but you still have to be careful with it. I got some disposable little pots for each of my colours and measured out 50 grams of the concrete into each of them. You don't want to leave the concrete open and sitting out for very long, so I got them all measured out quickly so I could put the lid back on, and then covered each of the pots as well. I added all the dry mix to the pots instead of doing one and then mixing in the water and the paint, because I didn't want that to start setting before I'd finish the final colour. For each mix of colour, for 50 grams of the concrete mixture, you want to use about 7 mils of water. I used one of these medicine syringes, which actually had both 2.5 and 5 mils listed on the side of it, so perfect for measuring out the exact water that I needed. And I used a little popsicle stick to stir it all together. You want to make sure the water is all mixed in so it's like a batter kind of consistency. Then onto the fun part of adding the rainbow colours. Now, other than the red, I used paints from the Terra Clay Paint range from Dixie Belle. However, the red in that range is more of a kind of raspberry pink, so I had to find another red for what I wanted, a bright rainbow colour. For this one I used Barn Red, and you really only want to tint the concrete. You don't want to add too much because then you're adding more liquid into the concrete mixture, which is more likely to seep out of the tight, not be as structurally sound, and would take longer to dry. It's worth noting that for the lighter colours like the yellow, they really didn't have the vibrancy that you would hope for a rainbow, because of course it's diluted within that grey colour of the concrete. You can see just how diluted the orange is compared to the lovely colour from this marigold paint. The darker colours definitely suited mixing into the concrete better, however half the point of a rainbow is bright fun colours. So I chose to add in a pink called Prickly Pear just to create a bit more vibrancy and fun as well. I made a couple of different pumpkins at the same time, so I also used one of the tights over a glass jar, and I placed them in a slightly different order to see if it made much of a difference to the pattern at the end. For the one in the glass jar, I did several different dollops all on the base layer and then put them in random places on top as well. For the one in the cup planter, I also put them in randomly, but then I used a toothpick to gently mix the colours throughout to see if it would create a sort of marbled effect. You can see why you don't want it to be too runny here, because it would just seep out of those small holes within the tights. And then the final step to getting this into a pumpkin shape is to get your string and to tie it up. Depending on how many ridges you want is how many pieces of string you should lay out. I chose 3 pieces of string so that I would have 6 ridges around the edges of the pumpkin. I laid it out as though it was slices of a pizza so that I would place my pumpkin in the middle section and that it would be roughly even. The first string you want to do is to tie the top of the tights. You want this to be fairly tight because that is what's going to hold your round pumpkin shape in place. And cut off the extra material at the top of the tights that you no longer need and would just get in the way of being able to tie in your ridges. Take the opposite ends of one piece of string and tie it at the top. You want it to be tight enough so it will create that ridge within the pumpkin, but not so tight that the string gets caught within the folds of the concrete and you can't remove it once it's dried. And wait for it to dry, which takes about 24 to 48 hours. And seeing as I've got everything out, I thought I'd just do one more, but this one it'll be almost the opposite of a rainbow concrete pumpkin. I'm going to do some black with some glitter that goes in paint and also some gold shimmer as well. So if this works, I don't know if it will, there's a theme to this video, then it should be black with a little bit of shimmer and sparkle, which against the light should look really beautiful. So let's see if this one works. The process for my sparkly pumpkin was the same, so I won't go into it other than seeing the accidental but quite ridiculous amount of gold shimmer that ended up in the pot. So concrete mixed, I added in my true black paint. It started to look like squid ink, which was a bit fun. I then finished off my packet of silver glitter paint. And get ready for the splash of gold shimmer in 3, 2, 1. Oops. Then the final step is to add some stalks. I chose a variety of stalks for my different pumpkins. I went for some natural wooden sticks for my rainbow pumpkins to balance out the bright colours. A plastic gold stem that came from a faux pumpkin for my sparkly pumpkin. And because I was playing with concrete, I made a classic grey pumpkin too, and for that stem I used some rope. I attached all of them with E6000 and they secured really nicely. I couldn't be more pleased with how these rainbow pumpkins turned out. I didn't know if they would, and they do, and they look so pretty and so happy and fun. You can see the difference between the pumpkins that have got the solid blocks of colour and the one where I dragged the toothpick through it and create a slight marbled look. The sparkly pumpkin looks so pretty in real life, it's really hard to capture the shimmer on camera. And then the classic concrete as well. You can't go wrong with something so sweet and charming as a concrete pumpkin either. Which one was your favourite? I would love to know. And if you'd like to know more about the different supplies, then check out the description. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, bye!